You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, unknown actors with me, Louise, the Artistic Director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And for the last 13 years, I've been taking unknown actors with blank CVs all the way to Netflix dramas, Amazon Prime films, TV soaps and stage plays around the world. And every week I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid working unstoppable actor, because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready to dive into the episode?
Hello and welcome to another insightful and inspiring episode of Unstoppable Actors, where I am going to be talking to you all about top tips for audition interviews. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I feel from personal experience, you may or may not agree with me, depending on where you are in your acting career, but sometimes the interview can be more nerve-wracking than actually presenting the piece that you've been asked to prep. I definitely know that I've struggled with interviews in the past in auditions because I've never known what to say, how much I should give away, should I talk about myself, should I talk about the character, what should I actually talk about? Should I talk about past acting work that I've done? And what about if you're brand new to acting and you don't have any past acting work and this is your first audition? And you can end up in such a pickle like, what do I even talk about? What do I say? Am I coming across all right? Am I coming across like a bit of a douchebag? You know, you want to know, don't you, how you are coming across. And so these tips that I'm going to share with you are what I have learned over my years of doing auditions, my experience of what's worked, what hasn't. And of course, I'm saying and of course, but I have held auditions myself. So I used to run a theatre company. I held auditions for that. I've held auditions for film companies in Sheffield, where I'm from. And I've sat in on auditions as well for other production companies. So I'm quite well versed in auditions, and I've seen things that work and I've seen things that don't. And I do hold auditions for the 10-week method acting module. So I've seen a lot of new actors auditioning for that. So what I'm sharing with you today is based on my entire experience across the board of all those things that I've just shared with you, and of hearing my students' experiences of auditioning as well. So I hope it's going to be really insightful for you. My main aim is that I help you feel grounded and confident and connected to yourself when you go to auditions, so you can get one step closer to becoming an unstoppable actor, because you are more than capable of becoming an unstoppable actor. And an acting career is so doable for you, no matter what stories you're telling yourself, no matter what level of confidence you've got. An acting career is doable for you. And I'm so glad that you're here, because this episode is one step in helping you manifest your dream acting career. Before I get started, we've got applications open for the January 2025 10-week method acting module. This module focuses on building a believable character and all of the exciting and amazing method acting exercises that you must be using to connect deeply to the character, to create a unique character that makes you stand out as an actor. This module comes around once every 4 years. It's been 4 years since I've coached actors on it, and I'm so excited for it, because the exercises in it absolutely transformed my own acting. And I know they're going to do exactly the same for you. So I do invite you, after you've listened to this episode, to go and read the page on the 10-week method acting modules, on the training, everything that's included, what it's going to do for your career. And then I invite you to apply for a place, because if 2025 and getting off to the strongest start possible and having a brilliant 2025 with your acting is high on your list of priorities, and you want to start getting those doors opened that perhaps have not opened for you in 2024 for whatever reason, then I highly encourage you and recommend you to go and apply for a place on that training, because it is unlike any other. I also want to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to every single person who is rating the show. I keep going back on Spotify and seeing the ratings go up and up and up, and I'm like, oh wow, this is so incredible. And I love it, because it tells me what episodes you are really enjoying and what you want more of. And of course, it puts a big smile on my face and it makes me even more excited, is that even possible, to record podcast episodes for you. I'm saying that because if you've listened to this for a while, you know that I start off every single episode saying, I'm so excited. But I am. I absolutely adore recording these episodes for you. I love imparting my knowledge onto you. I can only go so far in the episodes though. The next level is coming along to train with me practically. That will take everything that you learn in the podcast to the next level. So I will share the details of the 10-week method acting module in January 2025, again at the end of the episode. But for now, pull up a pew. Let's dive in. So, audition interview top tips then. Well, there's one question that really boggles so many people. But before I tell you what that question is and how you can prep for it, I want you to know that a lot of casting directors are going to do the pleasantries. But I'm talking about when this is an in-person audition, by the way. I'm not talking about self-tapes, because on self-tapes there's a very set format for how we do them. Usually an ident at the beginning if it's been requested, then you go into the piece. Like, you don't need to introduce yourself in terms of giving verse and chapter about who you are, because there's no time for casting directors to be watching a ton of backstories about who you are as a person, not just the character on self-tapes. So on self-tapes, we usually don't have this. And of course, you've got time in your own home or wherever you're recording it to relax and get into the character. But when it comes to in-person auditions or even online auditions, because a lot of auditions take place over Zoom as well, because it saves casting directors hiring out of space. Makes sense, right? So in those kind of auditions, in person or online, casting directors are going to do what we call the pleasantries. And the pleasantries are asking you some questions about yourself. They know that you're going to be nervous. They do want to help you relax, so please take them off that pedestal that you put them on. I'm saying that knowing I used to put them on a pedestal as well, until I realised, oh, they're a human just like me. Doesn't matter what their job title is. And oh, they've probably had to work really hard to get in this position as well, just like I've had to work really hard to get in this room. So you can take them off that pedestal. It's a level playing field. I know it might not seem like it, because you're probably thinking in your head, yeah, but they hold the key to whether I get my foot in the door or not. And whilst, yeah, there's some truth in that, at the end of the day, they're a human, just like you, who's still working hard to keep in a job. So let that humble you when it comes to auditions. But yes, they want to help you relax. They know you're going to be nervous. One of the questions that they can ask yourself that gets so many people in a kerfuffle is a Yorkshire word for our international students, or even those students who don't live in Yorkshire, and it just means in a bit of a pickle and a bit of a mess. So that question is, tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself. Wow. Well, I could be like, hey, I'm 39. I've got so much life experience. Where do I start? But you can't tell your full life story, because that's not what they want to hear, and ain't nobody got time for it. So this is what I used to do in the past. I used to tell a story whenever I got asked that question, the dreaded question, tell me about yourself. I just used to tell one short story. And the story was this, and this is an actual true story. I would never make anything up. The story was, hi, I'm Louise. I am really spiritual and into all things woo-woo. And recently I had a past life reading, and I found out that I used to be a male dictator in a government. And even though you might be thinking, why would you even tell that story? I mean, I padded it out a little bit more than that, but for the point of this podcast, I'm keeping it super short. I used to tell that because it used to make people laugh. And the reason I wanted to make people laugh is because, firstly, it shows that I'm a human. Secondly, it shows that, you know, I'm a nice person to be around. I can create a nice atmosphere. And thirdly, it's just something a little bit more about me beyond acting. And I would never, ever, ever share anything about my acting. And I think that's what a lot of actors, especially new actors, get caught up in. Tell me about yourself. Oh, that means that they want to hear everything about my acting career. Well, what if you're relatively new? You might not have that much to talk about, and then you start to put pressure on yourself and start to wonder whether what you're saying is good enough. So I always used to tell that story. It might not have sounded funny as I shared it just then, but I promise you now, every single audition I went to, it used to get a laugh. It was short, it was succinct. Is it relevant in 2024? I don't know. I definitely do need to change that story. It might not be appropriate, but you don't need to go into tons and tons of detail. I always believe that less is more. When you start over talking, I do believe you can start to talk yourself out of a job. You've got to remember about auditions. People are not just there. The casting directors are not just seeing whether you can act or not and whether you've got the ability and you've got the right essence for this character, but they're also seeing what you're like as a person to work with. So here are the tips. Answer any questions that they give you really succinctly. Remember what I said, less is more. You don't need to go into tons and tons and tons of detail. I often think when we're doing that, we're overcompensating for something that we don't feel totally confident about. So less is more, answer those questions succinctly. If you don't understand something, or you've been a little bit nervous so you've not fully heard the question, hello my fellow ADHDers, like sometimes I don't hear questions fully because my mind is just thinking so quickly. Ask for the question to be repeated. It's okay. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you didn't hear it. That's okay. You do not need to go into auditions with this idea that you have to be perfect and make zero mistakes. We're all going to make some little mistakes. You're a normal human. If you didn't hear something, it's okay. So that's the other thing, is not just ask for the question to be repeated if you didn't hear it, but stop putting bloody pressure on yourself. It's so unnecessary. My third tip is speak from the heart. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to be arrogant, but who you are in that moment is enough. It is completely enough. So speak from the heart. And then my final tip is read the room. Read the goddamn room. You do not need to waffle on unnecessarily. So if you start getting a feel that the energy is dipping in the room, wrap up what you were saying. If you start to get the sense, and I don't mean this in a be hyper aware kind of way and, like try and monitor everything that's going on, but if you get the sense that the casting director is wanting to move on, just wrap up quickly. Don't take it personally, just wrap up quickly. Remember, they've got a set amount of time for each person. And my final tip is have a quick story up your sleeves that you can share when they ask you the dreaded, so tell me a bit about yourself. I always think talking about something non-acting related is so much better. Now, I wouldn't share that story about my past life reading and being a male dictator. God. I mean, it does make me laugh. It is a funny story and it is the truth, but I wouldn't share that story now. I might actually tell them a story about my 2 cats. Like, I've got 2 cats. I absolutely love cats. I'm a crazy cat lady. And then just tell a quick short story about something funny that they did. I might get a casting director who absolutely hates cats, who's allergic to them. Or I might get a casting director who also loves cats. And then what do you know? We've got something in common. We've made a connection. And that's the thing. Whenever I go into auditions, I'm always thinking from this perspective, how do I want that other person to feel after I've left the room, after I've left the audition? Because how you make people feel is so important. That's the impression that they're left with. It also helps me stop pressuring myself. Auditions can be very pressuring experiences, but when I go in asking myself, how do I want this person to feel at the end? It takes the pressure off myself and it reminds me that this is a human-to-human interaction. So what do you think then? What do you think about those tips? Which 1 or 2 or 3 could you put into practice at your next audition, where it's an online audition or an in-person audition? You can choose any of them or you can use all of them at the same time. It doesn't really matter, as long as you are feeling more relaxed and not feeling like you have to overly impress someone in an audition. And these are the things that I have found through my own experience, through coaching actors, through auditioning people in the various different capacities that I have, that make the biggest difference and a lasting positive impression at auditions. And with that in mind, I want to invite you to come and apply for the 10-week method acting module in January 2025, because if you thought that was good and you've got some good little nuggets and you're feeling more inspired and you're feeling more confident and more grounded with auditions, what do you think would happen when you've got practical exercises that you're learning that you didn't know before and that you're getting feedback on from myself? Where do you think your confidence levels will be after that? How proactive do you think you will be with your acting career? What differences do you think you will be making to your acting dreams and goals? And we have to make good decisions when it comes to something as big as changing career, which is essentially what you're doing when you're pursuing an acting career. You're wanting to go from one career to another. So we have to make good decisions. So do make good decisions for yourself. Method acting is one of those good decisions. The course starts January the 17th, 2025. If doing everything you can to get to that next level in your acting career, whether it be more auditions, more paid acting work, your first paid acting job, even your first ever role, if that's high on your priority list, I recommend you applying for a place on the 10-week method acting modules. So the link is bit.ly/10, as in the number 10, 10-week method acting. So you can type that into Google or you can click the link underneath where you've pressed play. I always love sharing this information with you. I am rooting for your success. I am your biggest cheerleader. I am cheering you on in the background as I'm recording these podcasts. We may have met, we may never have met, but just know that I'm rooting for you and you can do this because an acting career is doable. I've absolutely loved hanging out with you and I really hope you found this episode inspiring. If you have, please do rate the podcast and hit follow so you never miss an episode and I can help more actors like you. And come and join one of the most supportive, uplifting acting communities on socials, the Unstoppable Actors Facebook group, where you'll get your weekly injection of inspiration, networking, and receive your free Method Actors Handbook so you can become an unstoppable actor.